Namaste everyone. Good evening. This is your host today, Suresh Mohan Semwal from India. And I'm very happy and delighted today because I'll be speaking to my very good friend Thomas from Germany. I know Thomas for more than 2 years now, and I like many things about Thomas, but few things that really admire about Thomas is he's very meticulous, methodical, detail oriented, and one thing I can claim that we have common is a very strong work ethics. And he's very kind enough that today on our request, he has, agreed to devote 30-40 minutes here with us to share his perspective on the current COVID-19 challenge and how businesses and leaders are handling this challenge all over. And because he has a lot of international exposure, so therefore I thought that, he'll be the best person to share some of his insights into how the business and leaders are coping with it and what are the future business opportunities that we can look forward to. So let me help to welcome my friend Thomas. Thomas, if you can kindly switch on your video so that people can watch you.
Hello, good evening. Hi, Suresh.
Hi, Thomas. Good to have you here. So I hope you and your family is well and safe there in Germany.
Thank you very much. We are all currently well and safe, and let's hope that it will stay like this. Thank you.
And I'm also told that, in comparison to India, your traveling is quite free as of now. You're still free to roam around.
Yes, within Europe, since June 15, it is possible to go to most countries again. UK is still an exception, parts of the Nordics, but for example, going to France, Italy, and so on is possible. Within the own country, also no limits. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because here in India, we are going through a lot of ambiguity in terms of whether the lockdown is over or not and how much it is over. So, but anyways, yeah. So thank you very much once again for, giving your time. And let me begin. The first question that obviously, which is in my mind is that in terms of your perspective, how COVID-19 has impacted life and business worldwide?
Well, the impact on the business, I think we can all feel ourselves. And being a psychologist by background, I think there are people more qualified to talk about numbers and figures. But what I find interesting is that whilst many people believe there are only losers in this, I see that there's quite a lot of winners in it as well in terms of business. So, of course, my clients from the tourism industry, from the aviation industry, they are not in good shape. Mm-hmm. But I have, for example, a client who has built up e-commerce business for families, and they had record highs. They had the highest numbers ever. Or take another example. I'm working with a pharmaceutical company, and they are producing medicine against the common cold. Okay. And they had the record high in March and April, but then they went down by 80% in May because due to social distancing, nobody's catching a cold anymore, right? So before everybody was shopping for that, now they have a problem. Another good friend of mine is developing e-games, electronic games, and they have wonderful sales. So I think it depends a lot on the industry. Mm-hmm. And I think it also depends, and I think this is the more important message for us, on the agility that small businesses have. Mm-hmm. So, you know this as well as I do, Suresh. We are having our rather small businesses and we are adapting to it. And I think a very good example for this is in the village where I live, close to Munich. We have 2 restaurants. Yeah, it's a very small village, and one of them adapted very well to the lockdown and one didn't. So the one who did not, they kept complaining, they kept secretly opening the back door, people going in. They didn't mention to put a menu online. And the other one, it's a little pizzeria. They started making special pizzas, and the children of the owner were drawing little cartoons on the boxes, on the pizza boxes, and making wishes. And they kind of installed a little ramp where people could pay money, put it into a basket, and they would pull the basket, then they would put the pizza in, and it got very popular, and they got record sales as well because people said that's so cute and we should support them. And I think, of course, overall, while the numbers are not so good, there is an element there are also a lot of chances in it. If you're agile enough, you can make something happen. So yeah, that's my perspective on business. You asked about the perspective of how it impacted life as well.
Yeah.
And I think we all see that. I mean, each of us in the world has new challenges. It was our kick into the virtual 21st century. And I'm also dealing with homeschooling with 2 kids, multitasking here and there. And again, my impression is it is possible, it is challenging, but again, the differences are big. And I think on one hand, I can see big differences between people who have plenty of money and who have less money. So of course, for those who are rich, they manage somehow with a lot of space. And the poor people also in Germany, when they live together on 20 square meters with 6 people, it's more difficult. But I think it also has to do with who is poor and rich in the sense of having coping strategies. So who has a toolbox, a mental toolbox to also deal with it. So I know a family and they really live in a very small flat with a lot of people, but they are doing a lot of meditation. They are doing every day a positive journaling. They are noting down what was good today. And they say, wow, we cope with this very well. And I know other people who just complain every day since 3 months how bad the world is and how mean everything is. So I think it has to do both with, do you really have the capacity in terms of, do you have space enough, but also do you have coping strategies yourself of dealing with a crisis like this? So that would be my answer.
It's almost same here, Thomas. Some companies, of course, adapted very well, and they have, gone through this crisis in a very effective way. Others, of course, there are always complainers and cribbers who were even not doing so great before COVID-19 too. It's all over same. And the last part that you said, it is not just about the physical space, about how do you handle your thought process and emotion, etc. Interestingly and ironically, unfortunately, here in India, in the last few months, we have seen a lot of celebrities, going through severe depression.
Wow.
Now, people who don't have anything to eat or look up to, or who are going through some job crisis, they are under depression is still understandable. But here we saw some people who have loads of money in their bank, who have millions of followers on their social media. They, at a very young age, committed suicide. So what do you see as a psychologist, Thomas? How do you see that, why people are not able to handle it psychologically? What are we lacking?
Yeah, that's a very, very interesting question. And I've been thinking a lot about it, and I have done quite a lot of coachings with senior managers, with some, we don't have so much of a celebrity culture in Germany, but with some wannabe celebrities on this. And I think it's very important to look into human needs and human motives for understanding. So the key question is, are my personal needs, my motivations, my motives still fulfilled? Can I keep with them or not? So give you some example. I mean, basically, psychologists say that there's 3 universal needs that almost everybody has, which is a need for autonomy, a need for social connectedness, and a need for competence. So we all want to feel that we have some freedom or autonomous decision. We all want to be connected to somebody, and we all want to feel competent. And of course, all those 3 have been suffering in the last months to a certain degree. We cannot easily meet people anymore. We cannot so easily go out and decide ourselves where we want to travel, where we want to eat, and we are not feeling so competent with a new situation. So this is what all people have. But apart from this, I think what is very important is to understand the individual need structure. So I'm sure, Suresh, you have heard about the Reese profile. That's a very interesting psychological tool I love to work with, where people say there's 16 basic motives. So that starts from curiosity, competition, influence, power, social contacts, and so on. And of course, people who have an extreme high need for social contact, and maybe also a high need for recognition, for being liked by others, tend to have a more difficult time than people who don't. So give you an example. I have a very good friend. He is a head of a software developing company. He said, for me, it's the best time I ever had, because his main motives are eating, curiosity, and independence. So he said, I have a full fridge, I have books everywhere, and nobody's disturbing me. So he's happy. On the other hand, if of course your main needs in life that you are is to go out, to be admired by other people, that's where you're probably having a harder time, and when you have to really think about more, how can you fulfill them?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if this is an explanation, but lately I teach in an MBA program, and I did a check-in round with my students. How are they doing? And there was this lady from Egypt who said her biggest hobbies are going out, partying and dancing. And she said she's having a very, very hard time. So of course, then you can think about how can you still fulfill the needs. So, I mean, I, for example, have an extreme high family need, and my father and my mother are pretty old and they are in the main risk group. So we also said we cannot meet you anymore, it's too risky. So what we established is really Zoom-based fairy tale hours. So every evening my parents are reading to my kids a fairy tale. They are 6 and 8 and they love it. Or we even met already for coffee and cake with the whole family. So of course we can try to replace it. But of course, depending on our human need structure, it can be more or less difficult.
Wonderful. So these 16 needs that you were mentioning, Thomas, you first mentioned that we can broadly categorize them into basic 3 needs, right? One was autonomy. The second you said was connectedness. And what was the third that you said?
Competence. Yeah.
The competence one. All right. Now the interesting perspective here is, because you are in Germany, in a developed nation, in countries like ours, the first basic 2 needs are survival. The feeling about autonomy and connectedness comes later on. Here, the first is survival. Second is security, safety. And after that, of course, we think about these 3. So that is one major difference, I guess, from Indian and Germany perspective.
Yeah, but we are always assuming a perspective where everybody has enough to eat and drink.
Yes.
And a basic social security net. And that,
yes.
Unfortunately, we do have this. 83 million people, nobody would ever die without healthcare. Yeah.
Yes, so that's the difference. So now if we talk about the business part, what do you think? How can people in the global organization nowadays work together in a better way? People who are working in the global organizations.
Global organizations, I mean, this is a big topic and I could probably talk about it for hours.
I know.
Some trainings on this, but just some highlights. I mean, one very positive one is there is now suddenly one commonality all people across the world are having. And that's really something you should not underestimate. So you, same as I, you do a lot of business I see you in Thailand, in Denmark. And in the past, sometimes it was difficult to find a topic. Are people more fan of cricket or of soccer or about the weather? And now we all have an enemy that we can agree on. Everybody can talk about the issues of handling family and so. So this is a great commonality, which helps to create a feeling of bonding. I think this is a positive starting point. Yeah. On a practical level, I have seen, and I can only repeat it again, the importance of really trying to replace personal contact by as much stimuli as possible. So I always say, please have your video camera on. Please, at least, even if you have the slow connection, put it on in the beginning and the end so you can see each other. So try to replace all the personal meetings. And I think I'm not telling you something new. So those virtual water cooler rounds or virtual coffee rounds. A lot of clients said, though, every day at 1 p.m. we sit in our home office, we eat together, we look into the camera. Every morning I do a 20-minute check-in. So I'm not walking from office to office, but I just let people die in. Everybody has 1 minute to talk about how was my day. Another very nice thing that I saw, people were sending photo connections from their home office and then somebody making a big poster where you see all the different home offices. I think all these things help to kind of create more bonding together. One life hack that I find very, very important and that I had now a few times is if you as a leader want to stress that something is really important, you might think about including physical objects and send them via post to the people in your team. So everything has become virtual, but sometimes if something is really important, still do it. Like a leader of a company I talked to lately, he had made a code of conduct with his global team. So they did an online workshop about how should we work together globally. And then he printed this really out. He made it on very nice paper. He put it to the post office and he sent it to everybody in the whole world. So it took quite a lot of time and money, but he said, this is important. He added a handwritten note saying, please hang this on your wall in your home office. And he did the same. And I think that also really made a difference to say, even though we are virtually together, there's still the possibility to send around some stuff.
Oh, that's good to know.
And one thing that I did, for example, lately I did a training and on leadership, and we were doing a fireside chat with a celebrity. And normally you would sit around the fire with a wine. So I was really sending a box of wine to each of the participants so we could still open it. So these little things I think really can help to make the collaboration a little bit better. But last point, maybe Suresh, we also have to be honest. Things do be key on it, but my experience is that conflicts between people are becoming bigger in the home office. Yeah. So those people who had conflicts before, also, to be honest, antisocial behaviors might become stronger. Leaders who didn't care of their people before now care about them even less. And honestly, I see this in all parts of society. I see this with teachers as well. Right? So the teachers of my kids who were engaged are even more engaged, and the lazy ones are even more lazy now. So
yeah, true.
It's become more obvious. Yeah,
I think that's global. That's global. That's global. So that's a fine idea. I guess this we can also apply here in India. That sending something physical. Yeah. To your people. I think that's a wonderful idea.
It's but it really helps.
And what do you think in the last 4 months or so, what are I would say, the best practices that you have observed, either in the companies or in some individuals, in terms of their mindset or certain business practices? Anything that, is really totally different and something which can be practiced by many others?
Best practices. I mean, first of all, when we talk about the past 3 months, one thing that I have seen, and I'm sure you and many of the listeners have stumbled across it, is this change curve. So this roller coaster of emotion, of starting really with a shock phase, then a lot of people going into denial. So I remember in Germany, this was around March 13, a lot of people saying, no, this can't be true and it's not happening. It's just a normal flu, and people still meeting even more. And then people started realizing rationally more and more what it means. And then I think towards mid of April, that's where in my place, people were really at the lowest point. So that's where people really, a lot of depression. That's where we also had the case of suicide. And I would say in our country, no, it's going up again. So people are starting to get some hope. And that's something that I see happening in a lot of countries, but with different time phases. So I think China was first on this. They went through this curve from January to April. Italy was starting in February, Germany in March, and UK in April. So I think it really depends a lot on the place, what the mental mindset is. And also the requests that I got as a trainer were changing a lot. So in March, what I saw many times are people asking, how should I organize myself in the home office? Nowadays, checkpoint. I think most people have done this. Then April, the big question was how to lead and give stability in times of crisis. So a lot of people were asked, what can I do as a leader? That was April. And what I now see currently in June, and I would be curious if you have the same experience, the question that very often comes up is how can we protect our middle managers from burning out? Because that's something that I currently see a lot. The team leads, the middle managers, who on one hand have to balance the challenges at home and try to be there for their 15, 20 employees in times of uncertainty. What do they do for themselves? And you asked me for best practice. And I think one thing that I have seen in a lot of middle managers to really say, despite of being a stability anchor for my employees, I also take care of myself. I go for a walk every day in the evening in the park. I do practice some meditation, 15 minutes a day. I try to eat as healthy as possible. I sometimes really switch off the computer at 5 p.m. and say, this is the me time. That's something that I experienced really to be very important.
Mm-hmm.
So I always tell people, if you are there for everybody else, try to be there for yourself too.
Yeah,
Does this
that's
make
very
sense?
important. That's very important. Yeah. Here in our country, we have been, requesting our participants, viewers, to practice hour of power every day.
Oh yeah.
So that concept is very simple concept here, that practice hour of power every day. Like we charge our cell phones every day because the battery gets drained. Similarly, we also get demotivated at times, the lethargy seeps in and a lot of other things happen. And a lot of negativity around, especially in the current ambiguous and uncertain situations. So this hour of power practice is very simple. We request people that, 20 minutes every day, they must exercise some physical movement.
Yeah.
Okay, as we all know that when we physically move, some kind of dopamine gets released in our system, which is very good for feeling good.
Mm-hmm.
So 20 minutes of physical exercise, we always suggest. And then the second thing is 20 minutes of positive inputs for our thought factory.
Yeah.
As we all know that, we are producing a lot of thoughts every day. So the production is largely going to be determined by the raw material that we supply. So if the only supply of raw material is through the news that these many people died, these many people got affected, these many people lost the job and other things, then of course we are going to create similar kind of thought pattern. So 20 minutes every day, we got to supply something which actually creates some, good output for our thought factory too. For that, we can watch good videos, we can update ourselves technically, or we can, read nice books. So 20 minutes every day, if we do that, that is good for the mind to work for the whole day.
Yeah.
And then two other things that we generally suggest, I'm sure you will agree with that, 10 minutes of writing. 10 minutes every day a person must write. This is what we recommend. And when I say write does not mean that you need to write poetry all the time. Just as you mentioned, writing the thought journal or the thank you journal, but writing your, putting your thoughts in writing, that also helps people. And the last suggestion in hour of power is 10 minutes of silence every day. Though we remain silent for quite some time, but 10 minutes of silence purposely. And in that, we just need to maintain verbal silence and observe anything and everything which is happening to us or around us. So if you see, this is a 60-minute suggestion. In a day, if somebody practices hour of power, chances are a person will be able to get through the day better than others. So that is pretty much similar to what you just suggested.
Can I add 2 points?
I'm sorry?
Can I add 2 points?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, I think one thing that I really had to learn myself is to do sometimes some digital detox in terms of watching news. Life simply doesn't get happier when you watch news 10 times per day and you see all those pictures. It doesn't get better at all.
Seriously.
So that's one thing. And again, the power of positive directing your things. So, I mean, my kids, for them, it was not easy at all. They are very, very active. They are very social. And we really kept the lockdown for 6 weeks. So we really sit down every day and we noted down all together what could we be grateful for, what was a good thing that happened today to us. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And you start appreciating smaller things more as well.
Very true.
Power, and something like this.
I'm sure one thing is must be same for both of us, that before lockdown, for the last 15 years or so, I used to be out of my home minimum 15 days. And now for the last 70 days, I am 24/7 Papa at home. So my family is not used to of, looking at me every day. So I don't know whether...
Yes, my daughter asked me yesterday, Daddy, when are you going to fly over to some clients? If they want to watch TV in the evening. By the way, I think this is a very important one as well, that I keep teaching leaders and I keep telling myself too. Try not to be perfect in these times. Allow yourself some mistakes too. I think, I don't know if it's like in India, but in Germany, there's a tendency to say we should not give any sweets to our kids. We should not let them watch any TV because it's pedagogically not bad. And we say, come on, in times like this, it's a special time. So sometimes permit yourself something a little bit more as well to you.
Oh, I have handed over the password of Netflix to my children. They are free because I saw the futility of asking them not to watch movies anymore. So I adapted. So I've given the password to both my kids, and they are very happy to see that the father has improved because they didn't. So I had to. So anyway, so that brings us to our next question, Thomas. That what do you think? How worldwide you have seen that some leaders are adapting to these in their personal as well as professional life?
Yeah, and I think the big question for leaders, next to taking care of themselves, is how can you lead in times of uncertainty? So in times when you don't know the answer, when you don't know how stable the business is, when you don't know what's going to be in 2 months. And the main mistake that I see very often, and I'm sure you would all have seen this as well, that people, particularly people from an engineering background who are used to solving and fix problems, that they say, I don't know the answer, so it's not worth to talk to my people. So if I cannot answer their questions, I better don't show myself at all. And I think this is fundamentally wrong.
Yes.
Because what people in these times need is a strong, caring, visible leader more than ever, even if he does not have a clear answer, just somebody who's available, who's there, who's supportive. And out of the best practices that I have seen with people, I try to crystallize 7 recommendations. The first one is share everything you know. So don't keep secrets, be as transparent as you want, as you can. So don't have any hidden secrets. Secondly, while doing this, don't make false promises.
Yeah.
So I've seen a lot of times people trying to come up with some gossips themselves or say, I'm sure it's not going to be so bad. If you don't know if it's going to be bad, you better say nothing at all.
Yeah.
So I remember the primary school teacher of my son was, after 1 week in lockdown, writing to my kids, I'm sure in next week we're going to meet all again and everything will be good. And I think there's a mistake, because you're nurturing hope, which will not fulfill. So don't make false promises, number 2. Number 3, try to invite people to your team who might know more than you. Try to get experts in. I've seen many times people in middle management position really asking the senior manager, the CEO, the HR officer to say, why don't you spend 10 minutes in our next team meeting and tell us a bit more what you know? And also try to reach out for information yourself. What I've seen now a lot of times also in one of our common companies that we work together in, Suresh, you know who I talk about, is to work with scenarios. So the big bosses there said, well, we don't know the answer, but to give you a bit more of security, let's try to play through 3 scenarios. Number 1, best case. Number 2, normal case. Number 3, worst case. And at least it seems like this gives a little bit of something to hold for the people.
Yeah.
Number 5, eyes on the ball, I call it. So focus on what you're good in, focus what you can do. Try not to look into what you can't do, but what can still be done now. And everybody can still do his day-to-day job. Everybody can be nice to his family. Everybody can work on building own skills. Number 6 is to be the stability anchor. And I think this is the most difficult one. So to be showing optimism, to be positive, to be there for your people, to have one-on-ones with them. And showing a certain level of vulnerability as well. So not playing the tough guy. So I think it's a time where it's absolutely fine to say, hey, this is also not easy for me. We are all having a tough time. And I could see this very well with our Chancellor, Angela Merkel. So of course, on one end, she was telling us a lot of times, yes, we're going to get through this. But she says, this is even for me and my husband not an easy time. And I think it also helps, it creates some more bonding. So still being optimistic, but at the same time vulnerable. And the last, I already mentioned, take good care of yourself. So to nurture your own body and your own.
Oh, these 7 points I think are wonderful. Share what you know. Don't make false promises, which is very difficult to do nowadays. In the name of positive thinking, at times we end up doing that. Inviting people who know more than you, of course, will help. And then 3-case scenario, your best practice that I always remember, keeping eyes on the ball and becoming a stability anchor. I guess that's what is expected out of a leader. And as you rightly said, show your vulnerabilities too. I think people will appreciate that. So wonderful. That will really help. Now, the last question. I know you are very particular about timing. It's 30 minutes already. But one last question, Thomas, before I allow you to go from here. One last question. What do you think is the positive which has happened because of this COVID-19? What is one positive that you will feel? I mean, personally, for you, or professionally, whatever you think.
I can see a lot of positives, but I want to go for, I'm thinking about which is the biggest positive. And for me personally, the biggest positive is that in a time that is going, everything is going faster and faster, and people are babbling, that I think me and many people I know have become more aware again of the small things, about not running from one activity to the next one, but really say, let's spend some time on this. I think I never had so many positive conversations, so many deep conversations via Zoom than before. And take that example, I mean, for years we've been talking about doing this. Now we finally have the chance to do this. Yeah. So I think this is one of the good things.
Yeah.
The second, my big hope, of course, would be that it has a positive impact on the environment on a longer scale. That unsustainable tourism, traveling, and waste of resources is going to be reduced for a lower impact on CO2. But I'm still hoping that we will not go. If I look in Germany, most companies, most people say, even after Corona is over, we will not travel the world so often anymore. We will really move more into doing more online stuff and so on. So.
Yeah.
How about you? If I may.
See, personally, trust me, one thing I think I have found very positive, which has happened to me thanks to COVID, my patience levels have really gone up. I never thought I would be able to survive these 70, 80 days, in the current environment, because the kind of life I have lived before COVID-19, trust me, from the age of 17 till before this COVID-19, I don't remember that being at house with family for more than a week altogether. Never. Not just with the family members, but even with my team members, I have seen that, the little issues which used to really upset me to a large extent. Now I have felt that my responses and reactions have become a little better from, my point of view. I'm sure they still have complaints, but from my point of view, my patience level has really gone up. And the second thing which I always thought I should have, which I never had, by the way, I always wanted to have, I think that I am becoming better at it, which is practicing humility. Because there are many things that you and I cannot control. Okay, so in the name of responsibility, at times we don't realize that we start controlling everything, and we want to keep everything and everyone in control. So this COVID-19 has shown us that there are hardly anything that you can absolutely control. So the only thing you need to learn to control is to your own emotions, your own thought process, your own energy levels. Rest, everything is dependent on so many other factors too. So hopefully these learnings should remain even after this COVID-19 is over. But anyway, so let's hope for the best. So with this, Thomas, let me really thank you for giving your precious, valuable time, I know. And I would take this opportunity to again request you that please accept our invitation for one more this meaningful, fruitful discussion in the next month. If you can spare you some time, it will be really beneficial for all of us. So with this, thank you so much, Thomas. Thank you.
I wish you all the best as well. Please stay healthy, stay safe, and the same to all the listeners. And I'm really looking forward to do this again. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye. So thank you everyone for being connected here on Zoom and Facebook Live. I hope this conversation with Thomas was really meaningful. It will help you. Must have given you some better ideas to handle yourself, your business, your teams, and especially the 7 points that he said in the end of the interview were really phenomenal. So even in future, if you want to get connected with Thomas, do let us know. We'll be very happy to get you connected to Thomas. He's a wonderful human being, of course, a wonderful professional too. So thank you very much. See you in some other such session very soon. Bye-bye. Be safe. Thank you.